December 4, 1993. I'm Charles Conn in Deerfield, Deerfield, Florida, and very delighted to have dear friends of long ago. The lady is, and her lovely daughters. I have not known that long, but we're certainly delighted to have you, Sister Poitier, and your husband, H.G. Poitier, and I worked together. He was the first person to be brought into office in Cleveland to help us in a very difficult period, and he did a very wonderful job of representing the black constituency of the Church of God and helping us in a period of transition that we were having. But it's also very nice to have your daughters, and I'm glad that they have come along with you as well, and we'll ask them to say some things as we go along. But mainly it's your story, Sister Poitier, and your name is Celestina, and Celestine, and these beautiful exotic names that go in the Poitier family are very very nice, and I appreciate it very much. But thank you so much for coming by, and I want you to take the microphone now and tell me something about your husband's life and about his ministry and about your life together and your family. You have a very distinguished family and a sizable family, I must say, too, and all of that. And it's, well, we have a lot of points of similarities between us and the two families, and so it's good to see you. God bless you, Sister Poitier. When did Brother Poitier begin his ministry?
He was saved in 1924, and not long after that, he began his ministry through witnessing to different people. And he worked, and all the distinguished reporting black church was set in order through he and a few of the older ministers. Now they have quite a number, but they're just kind of like mission churches, but this Deerfield church and some of the other larger black churches, they were set in order through my husband and some of the older ministers' work, Bishop Curry and Bishop Wallace and some of the Brother LaFleur and some of the others.
Now, where was his original home, Sister Poitier?
Arthurstown, Cat Island in the Bahamas.
He was a Bahamian.
Yes.
Yes. And the family is actually then largely Bahamian. Are you Bahamian also?
Well, I was born in Old Sound, right up the road. I was brought up between Miami and Delray.
Uh-huh.
And my family is, so my grandmother's mother was from St. Augustine. And my family is mixed up like that. My grandfather's father was an Irishman from Ireland. So I have a mixed family.
Uh-huh.
But I was brought up in Miami and Yamato. Delray.
How did you meet Brother Poitier?
Through the ministry. He and another missionary used to come to Yamato, a little place not far from here, next to Boca Raton. They always would have street meetings, and they would come to Yamato and have street meeting there, and we would stand up and listen. It was only one church in this little place, and it was a Baptist church. And that that was the only church. I am formerly Episcopalian. I was confirmed in an Episcopal church. And them coming up on a Sunday evening and having street meeting, we finally, it ended in a revival. And that was when the Lord saved me.
And your husband went almost immediately into the ministry after you came to know him, or was he already?
He went in the ministry not long, before that, but not long before that time, mm-hmm. Because then I met him after I came to this little place, and when they had the revival, he and another missionary opened the revival there, and we got saved.
Now, Sister Poitier, Brother Poitier's ministry is pretty well a matter of public record, and we do know a great deal about that, you understand. But one of the things that I want to emphasize is not just the churches he pastored and not just the administrative work that he did, but I want to learn a little bit about the man himself, H.G. Poitier. I want to know what kind of husband he was, and I want to know what kind of father he was, and that's where we need to, I'm so glad you brought your daughters along, and one day later I'll be talking to David as well. I called him some time ago trying to set up an appointment to talk with you and to talk with him, so I'll be talking with him. But now, I knew H.G. Poitier very, very well. We were together for 4 years in a very, very trying time, and I learned to know the temper of the man, that what he was made of, and he had the task of dealing with a difficult time, and that is when we had struck down the segregation that had kept the white and the black churches apart. But that was not always understood everywhere. Some people thought we were doing harm instead of trying to do good. And it was your husband's enormous task to try to knit these two things together. And I always will love him and his memory because of the work that he did and the tasks that he faced in that time. He and I had to have many long discussions about the situation that was there. But now then, I also know another side to him, and that is through your family, which we began to know. And I'd like you to tell me about the man. What kind of man was he as a husband and as a father? And you can pass the microphone to your daughters as you will.
My husband, Brother H.G. Poitier, was a very good man. I mean, we had a beautiful life together with all of our children. And you know, his passing affected me so much until everything that my children do now. She's a minister. She's a minister. And David is a minister. And I have another daughter who, she doesn't have her exodus, but she, like her daddy, she knows the scripture. Like, I don't know what, she's very good. And when they are on any program or they do anything good, I start crying because I know the kind of husband my husband was and how he was towards his children. Then I miss him for not being around to see how they work in the church. If she's preaching or she's bringing, the Lord always anoint them both greatly when they get up to speak with him. Then all I do is sit down and cry because I miss Daddy because he's not there. And I know what he always wanted for them and how he brought them up to be a part of the church. And I don't have anything to brag on, but I thank God that my children represent the Church of God like the Church of God. Now, sometimes now, I say, well, the church is not like it used to be. But you know what? You look at my girls, and you could tell they are different from the majority of the young people. I don't have anything to brag on, but I thank God, because it is through him and the way we brought them up and how they stick to everything, Church of God. And I am grateful to God for them.
As the oldest daughter, I am Mildred. I really believe in the principles of the Church of God, and growing up in a family that instilled spiritual values. We grew up in a home wherein we had to pray. We had family prayer every day. So as we go out into the outer world, we left home knowing that God was on our side. Where sometimes we were at work or at school during those years, but thank God for family like mother and dad. Now Dad has gone on to be with the Lord. He has left a legacy behind, and we do work together as a close-knit family. And I am grateful for that to this day. Many times I did not want to take on the task of being the oldest daughter. And Dad would say, well, Mildred, I am depending on you to carry on. Whatever they do, I am looking to you to steer them in the right way. And whatever it takes, when Dad comes, he will handle it. It is so good that even in the home, he was the same person when he was at church. He was a man of great self-esteem, stood for holiness, and he stood for the right, not in the civic world as well as the church. And I can be grateful for that today. Because of that, we have grown up and we are still as close today as if Dad were among us at this time. He charged each of us to continue to work for the Lord until the day is done. And when we have finished our course here on earth, we do expect to see him again.
Thank you for that, Mildred. You emphasized that you were the oldest daughter. Yes. And this is Mildred Roberts, who is a minister of the gospel and a very distinguished person in her own right. And she is the eldest of a long line of daughters. And I'd like to tell you what kind of a responsibility was that laid on you?
Many times Mother and Dad were taken out of the home, and he said, I expect for you to see that everything goes right in the home, whether it was cooking, cleaning, taking care of the younger ones, but just be there. And when Dad comes back, you just report to him anything that they did not do while he was away, or Mother. Because we realize that when you have a father who is a minister, many times they are taken out of the home, and many times people don't think we are human. But we have to share. And so many times that was left upon me. And I did not want the responsibility all of the time. But as I grew older, I realized that it only helped me to be a person in life, whether it's in a secular world or in the church world, that you have to be dependable and stand up and serve wherever it demands serving.
And Xenobia, you're a minister too. This is Xenobia Poitier-Anderson, and I'd like to know where you fit in to this family scheme. Are you one of the younger ones, or just what?
I am the fortunate 13th in the long line of 17.
17 children.
Yes.
Emphasize that so they will hear what you say.
Yes, I am the fortunate number 13 in the list of 17 children. There's only one older than Mildred, but Mildred is the oldest girl in the family. And we always refer to him as Daddy. I remember, though he was gone a lot and Mother had to assume the role as mother and father because of his leadership role in the church, every time he left, there was a hug and a kiss. And as soon as he returned, everybody in the house jumped. Here's Daddy. Everybody lined up to get a hug and a kiss from Dad. Mother didn't tell you that she calls him Sweets. She always called him Sweets, and he called her Sweetheart. And we always remember that. We remind our husbands, as a matter of fact, that they need to become a Sweets like our dad. But Dad challenged even the youngest of us continually. He seemed to have a very clear perception as to what each of us was capable of doing. And so he never asked us, can you do something? He would simply say, Xenobia, do this. And your only response to Daddy was, yes, sir. And he was not a loud man. He wasn't a boisterous man. As a matter of fact, he'd walk so quietly until he'd walk up on you and kind of catch you doing things, and you didn't know Dad was standing there. Now, we always knew when Mom was coming, but Dad simply would walk up and he'd talk to us and tell us what we needed to do. I remember after I had our first child, Dad came up several weeks later to visit. And as he was leaving the house, I walked outside with him and wished him well and hugged and kissed him. And he said, all right, Xenobia, now hurry up and get yourself together so that you can do what you're supposed to do. And I looked at him and I said, but Daddy. He said, you have a responsibility and you have something to do. And that was all he said. And he turned and got in his car and went back to where he was living. So he had a tremendous effect on all of us. Tremendous. The things I do today, every day, is as a result of what I believed Dad would have wanted for me to do. And anytime, I didn't necessarily like the ministry all the time because it took one of the most important people away from me when I wanted him all the time. But I respected that job, and as a result, it's made me the kind of person that I am. And anytime I have something to do, one of the thoughts that goes through my mind is, Daddy taught me to do this. Because he never asked me if I could stand up in front of an audience and speak, he just simply says, Xenobia, get up and do this. Now, in my profession, at any time, I get up, I do what I have to do, I sit down, and people look at me as if it's something that I've mastered, but it's a process of learning and training that Daddy saw in us. I mean, that's the kind of dad he was.
Now, in most big families, I know our family, we have 12 children. We have them divided into, they've divided themselves, the 6 older ones and the 6 younger ones. And the older ones have a rivalry against the younger, and the younger against the older. The older think that the younger are spoiled, don't have it rough like they did, and the younger wish that they'd had young parents like they had, and so forth. So I'm going to ask you, because this is an unusual family. I mean, it's accomplishments and attainments, and it's one of the distinguished families in the Church of God. So I'm going to ask Mildred to take the upper half and tell us who they are and what they're doing. And then, Xenobia, you take it from where she leaves off and take it all the way down. We'll hear the names of all of them.
This is quite interesting. The oldest, that's a boy, or a man, of course, now. That's Joseph Fillmore. Lives between San Francisco and Philippines. He has served in the Navy for many, many, many years, and now he is still involved in that kind of work. So he travels to and from the Philippines to San Francisco, and that's how he spends his time. Well, of course, I am yours truly, Mildred, living in Fort Lauderdale, a member of the Fifth Avenue Church of God. I am married to Ernest M. Roberts, who's also a member of the Church of God, and we do have 2 sons. Hazel, that's the third. Oh, yes, I've just recently retired from the Broward County school system. I spent many years there teaching boys and girls, and most recently I have been involved in teaching remedial reading. So I've been in that area for a number of years, and although I have retired, I still can't stay away from the school because they're always calling me to do something. My husband is a retired elementary school principal also. Hazel lives in Buffalo. Xenobia, you will have to help me. I never can pride myself in following all of these children. Hazel lives in Buffalo, as I forestated. What about her? She was married to a minister. He's deceased now. Yes. And Helen, a retired school principal who lives in Fort Lauderdale. What did I say? Oh my goodness. Helen Munnins, I'm sorry, she is a retired school librarian. So she is a member of this church. Now this is Dad holds membership until his death right here in the Cathedral Church of God. So Helen is also here as a member. After Helen, Elva, that's far in that line. Elva lives in Buffalo with her family. Vera Dolores lives in Fort Lauderdale, also a member of the same church that I attend. Then comes David. David is now residing in Hallandale as the pastor of the Greater Hallandale Church of God. Have I reached the half mark?
Of the Lee College Board of
Oh, yes, he was a member of the Lee College Board of Directors. Helped me there. Anything else I have missed? I have not gotten to half yet. All right. Okay. Now, we come now to Harcourt Garfield Jr. Finally, we got a junior. And that is so nice. Yes, right. But whatever it is, he's doing great. Lives in Miami. Lowell, no.
Yeah, no, Arnold.
Didn't I tell you I can't follow it?
You're doing well.
Okay, Arnold. Also, he used to No, but he was in the Navy.
Yes.
Served many years in the Navy. And you can tell where he's living now, out in California. He never came back to this side. Not to live. Well, that's what I'm saying. So now he is residing in Los Angeles.
Long Beach.
Oh, it's Long Beach?
Yeah, it's in Long Beach now.
Well, when I was out there a couple of years ago. Yeah, well, good. Oh, he's in Long Beach. All right. After Arnold, finally, Tony, yeah. Okay, Anthony, who lives in Jacksonville. In Lowell? Yeah, Lowell. Okay, all right. I wanted to get to him a long time ago. He's residing in Miramar. That's near Miami. Yeah. Oh, do you do? Oh, well, do you know where it is then? Now, you're supposed to help me. Can you pick up?
Yes, I'm
Yeah.
Okay.
After Lowell, there's Andre, and Andre lives in Orlando. And he works basically for himself in the car business. And then is Xenobia, that's me. I'm an assistant principal for the Martin County school system. My twin Zenana is a pastor, well, not in pastorate now, but her husband, Reverend Michael Reed, has served the church in various capacities. Treva, who is a media specialist here in Broward County. Lisa, who also resides in Miramar, and Lisa works in Fort Lauderdale. Lyndon, the baby of the family, has been left to reside with Mom. The last has to be left at home, but Lyndon works very effectively, and he did with Mom and Dad before Dad passed, and he remains there with Mom, taking care of the house. So that's the list of children in the long line.
One thing I would like to say about Treva, we attend the same church, but she is the one, Bishop Gooden, our pastor, says so often, evidently Dad's knowledge about the Bible was passed on to Treva. She is really fantastic. Therefore, we certainly work together in any kind of church work as far as, in fact, she is our Christian education directress for the local church. So I'm telling you, we have everything we need right in this family. And we just celebrated our Thanksgiving feast. My husband and I hosted it in Fort Lauderdale. We had a church service preceding our celebration, and it was so spiritual. Everyone sharing, and Xenobia sings so beautifully at that occasion, and it was just a blessing for the family to get together.
Treva is absent today because she's at the university. Treva, she's absent today because she's at the University of Florida over in Gainesville. She went to take a test on a special subject, and so that's where she is today.
This is a truly illustrious family, and it's rare to find a large family of greater distinction anywhere. And I mention this not because it has any special distinction, but because it might have some familiarity and some point of contact with those that hear the name Poitier. They do have a first cousin who is an actor. His name is Sidney Poitier, and I just mentioned that as a part of the record to let the people know that the name that they might be familiar with, Poitier, to know that you are the same family. But the family, you are such a beautiful spiritual family. Now, when your dad and I were together, The church was really working to find its way into breaking down the barriers of segregation. We have been applauded by many other groups because we had the courage and the boldness to do it. But this has not been satisfactorily received by all of the people of the church. And I would like to get your points of view, especially you girls now in this, because you're still out there on the cutting edge, and you're still, what do you really see? Where are we in the unifying of the Church of God that we've all set out to do? Mildred, what have you encountered, and what do you encounter, and what do you see about our efforts to bring about the unity we started out to do?
This is a subject I know that it takes time to deal with it, and I can remember what you have done along with Dad for the church, and I've gone through that, not only always present, but certainly as I foresee it. Now, the church still has a long road to travel, but I do see some results. What we still need to do, continue to pray, which I believe that is the key. We still need to pray that, and only prayer can change individuals, but we just have to keep on with the transition period, keeping it before them and not giving up. I do see some results, but many times we are going to just have to continue to work at it and let education and prayer take its course. Anything else?
I wonder if you're optimistic about it.
Oh, I'm optimistic. I've always been. We grew up in a home where we were taught spiritual values, no prejudices. We understand that God created man in his own image, and with that, I've never taken color to be one of, or racial barriers to confront us. Even in the secular world, I have always been able to work with groups, and it has never been a problem, because I feel that whenever you present yourself in such a way, that's what counts to me. And I'm very optimistic that we are going to have to continue to have seminars together. See, we don't need to isolate everything, because I still think we do find it as far as the General Assembly, but I would like to see other seminars wherein we, as a group, not as segregated, but that all groups are included, continually keep on doing what we are doing. And that's the only way I foresee us getting closer together.
Thank you very much, Mildred. Now, Xenobia, from a younger point of view, not that she's younger than you, but that she's represents a younger body of people, and as a minister also.
I believe that my ideals relate not only to a black-white issue, but to the issue of a female and her place, her role in the ministry, and her role in the church, as well as being a member of an ethnic group. The church has come a very long way. I am not able to perceive the depth to which the church has grown because I am from a younger set. And so I draw some comparisons with the world and how it has gone through steps or phases to desegregate activities or programs. I believe that the church needs to assume more of a leadership role in the process of desegregation, rather than being comparable or moving at the same rate of speed as the world. During the time of forced integration, when it came about, the church was still not yet ready to participate. So I perceive the church as catching up in that respect, trying to catch up to where the laws of man have started. We operate under the law of God, which is the law or the greater realm. And so because we have the ultimate power that is able to do the impossible, then the church should be at the forefront of this. We should stand out as an example to the world that because of who God is in us, we are able to perceive man as he really is, as a human being who needs to be saved without racial color or creed or any of those types of schisms. And so I believe that the church has to, we have the ability. We have been convicted by God as to our purpose. Now all we have to do is go with it. And even though I see the church as coming, it is not from the standpoint that I believe they don't want to move, but I believe those who are in leadership seem to feel a little hesitation because they cannot perceive the spiritual aspect of the body as a whole as to whether or not the body is ready to go. I have great respect for our leaders in our general office because I can see or sense a spirit in them that wants to do something to try to draw us closer together. But then you have to deal with the large picture. And you know that overnight you can't do anything. But I believe we can challenge that a lot more persistently because we have God who is the source in us. And he can change men's hearts. We have to give him credit for being able to do that. He can change men's hearts and he can make the difference so that in order for us to be the church under God, we need to take a more aggressive step towards bringing everybody together.
Thank you very much, Xenobia. One last question, Sister Poitier. You were married to a great man, a dear friend of mine, and he did many wonderful things. How would you hope that he will be remembered? Now, this tape that we're making today has a life expectancy of 300 years, which means that 100 years from now, people can be watching what we're doing on this December 4, 1993. And on beyond that, 3 times of how long they could watch if the Lord should tarry. And how, in that kind of time span, would you like H.G. Poitier to be remembered?
I would like Sweets to be remembered from the type of person he was, and everybody loved him. Now, there were a few people who thought they called him names, and they weren't nice names.
Uncle Tom.
Yeah, Uncle Tom. And we had to listen. I had to listen to them saying that, but I never said anything because I knew better. And but I would like for him to be remembered as a man of God that did everything. As far as color, he did not make no distinction. Whatever the work was to do, he did his part. And he was always a Christian man. I don't know anything else about him but being a good Christian, family-wise and church-wise. We pastored some churches for 15 years, 10 years, and all like that. And he was always our soft, loving type of person. And just a few people who, I don't think they were really Christian, what would call him an ugly name.
Yes.
Because he lived the Christian life. He believed in the church, and he stuck with the church. And he always wanted to do that. And he did that because he felt like that was right. And I always want him to be remembered as the man of God who did everything he wanted to be right.
Yes. I did not know if you knew or not, but I was aware of some people calling him an Uncle Tom. I worked with him closely, and Uncle Tom, he was not. He was not. He was a man of strength and conviction. He was a man of tact. And he was a man that believed in the other man. Don't try to force people prematurely into something until their hearts have been won to it. And because of that, some who were impatient and some who were much more, and I hate the use of this word, but it is the buzzword for the time, were militant, even within the church. And these people felt that he went a little too slowly. And for that, he gained, I guess, the name with some, but a very few, very few. He, and I would like him to be remembered in history as a man of strength and a man of principle and a man of great Christian care. Thank you so much for coming to be with me. It's been such a pleasure to have all three of you. I've been talking to the family of H.G. Poitier, his wife Celestine, and Mildred and Xenobia. And they're very lovely ladies all. I wish I could meet all of them and see if they're as lovely as you are. And it's always a delight to be with the family. We have great, great affinity with those of you we know. God bless you, and thank you for coming.